Ask is how am I gonna? Okay. Hello, my name is Parker Wilson, and this is my colleague here, Amen.
Hello, everyone.
And today, well, thank you for joining us today, and for our second Black History Month interview event. We're very, very excited to have you all today, as we're going to be having a very awesome open discussion with two very, very high class professionals in the industry, and really happy that everyone could join. Our theme today, a major discussion, what we like to call is navigating paths into finance. Our main objective and what we hope to accomplish tonight is to allow to explore pathways into the financial services industry and to give young professionals a short and also a long-term perspective on gaining the knowledge and skill set required to be successful in this very highly competitive industry. So for our first guest, very excited for is Mr. Dale Favors. Dale is an advisor and lead instructor at Wall Street Bound and partner Adaptive Growth Leadership. Dale is an inspirational sales coach and strategic business leader. He spent 26 years as a financial professional working in sales and sales management for firms such as Morgan Stanley, Bloomberg, Royal Bank of Canada, Piper Jaffray, Thomas Reuters, where he built relationships with some of the largest hedge funds, asset managers, corporations, and public pension plans. Dale is the managing partner at Adaptive Growth Leadership, a professional services firm focused on sales and leadership training, coaching, and business strategy centered on customer engagement and acquisition. So Dale, where are you? Good to see you. Thanks
Thank you for
for
having
joining
me.
on tonight.
Thank you.
Of course, Amen.
So I'll be introducing Deandre Parks, who is a research analyst at Western Asset Management Company. Deandre L. Parks is a research analyst with over 24 years of experience prior to joining the firm in 2005. Mr. Parks served as a director and senior global fixed income analyst slash portfolio manager with Solon Brothers Asset Management in New York City, covering the retail, consumer products, healthcare, tobacco, chemicals, and food industries. In addition, Mr. Park served as a senior fixed income analyst at American Express Financial Advisors in Minneapolis, following the aerospace, paper, and forest products, chemicals, tobacco, food and drug retailing, and gaming industries. He also worked at Sloan Financial Management as an equity analyst and was part of the team that created the business plan for the first U.S. investment team with staff on site in post apartheid South Africa. Mr. Parks is significantly involved in not for profit work with his specific focus on education and childhood development. He currently sits on the Financial Oversight Committee for the Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District and is the chair for the Post Retirement Funding Subcommittee. He founded a local youth athletic program focused on football, cheer, and track and field, and is the former treasurer and board member of Los Angeles County Pop Warner. Mr. Parks is a former board member and finance chair of the George Washington Carver Community Center in Norwalk, Connecticut, founder of the Uplift Foundation, board member of the New Jersey Advocates for Education, and former treasurer of Pilgrim Baptist Church in St. Paul, Minnesota. Mr. Parks holds the Chartered Financial Analyst designation and graduated with honors from Florida A&M University. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting and an MBA with a concentration in finance. And back to you, Parker.
Awesome. So again, thank you guys both for joining us. One thing that we neglected to mention, that's a connection our viewers may not know. Both of you guys went to college together. Maybe tell us a little bit about that. I mean, so you guys really do go way back.
You can start, Dale.
Yeah, we so DeAndre and I had the privilege of attending Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, Florida, and we also had the privilege of being trained and developed and kept in stitches from laughing by a great professor. And I'll let that story be told as well. And we had several of them, but that professor that I'm talking about is very close to this connectivity that we have, that we're brought all here right here on this platform. But the key piece, man, is we had common goals, and that was to be successful. And that success led us to work together a lot, especially when we didn't just attend Florida A&M for our undergraduate work, but we decided to stay and got our MBAs together as well. And while there, we really, really bonded during the MBA program and did a lot of work together because we were both pursuing careers in finance. And Deandre took the route of going to the buy side or being in the asset management space, and I took the route of going the sell side and being in the brokerage space, the institutional brokerage space, where we covered clients like the one that he went to work for, and so the rest is history. But we were just dreamers at the time, chasing the opportunity, and we went for it. And obviously, Dr. Wilson was one of those people who really invested in us. So that's my theory on it. Deandre?
Yeah, I would just say that it's interesting. It all comes full circle because Parker, I actually had your father, Dr. Richard Wilson, as my professional development instructor way back when, and he was a bit eccentric, uh, during I remember during our final exam, we were in this big auditorium and he came in roller skates, and was playing, cameo in the background, some old school music. And, but I would actually say that is my friend, that is my mentor, man that I truly love. One of the things I can actually say, Parker, you might not know this, but I met my wife for the very first time in Dr. Wilson's office, my sophomore year after reform. And he's always taking pictures. And so he actually had a picture of me my freshman year, a picture of my wife freshman year, and the picture the day that he found the picture that he took of both of us, the day that he actually introduced us. And, needless to say, Dr. Wilson has come to my wedding. Well, I would actually say in terms of being a classmate, Dale and I were actually hanging this past weekend, or last weekend, with several other classmates out here. They flew out to go to an event that I was actually helping host. And I can actually say that, one of the things I always appreciated, like Dale and I were the finance gurus, or like we were hard charging at it, just like you two young guys are now. And, we were brutally, savagely competitive in terms of, making it to the street, making some things happen. But one of the things I can also state is that it was all love. I mean, I'd actually say we actually always pushed each other to be better, to do better. And even throughout the years over the past 3 decades, one of the things I'd actually, and we can talk about later on, is that building that network. The founder of our business school always said, well, we have the saying, it's not who you know or what you know, but it's what you know when you know somebody, meaning that you actually have to be technically competent in everything you do, but you also actually have to tap into that network. And, for young professionals like yourselves, like I'm quite sure, Parker, you can maybe share that, my Rolodex is your Rolodex in terms of if you're serious about actually doing well in this business, we'll actually, fight some fights that you don't have to fight and open some doors for you, and use us as a resource because I would say in terms of our network, it is not, I would say if you have a question, it's only a phone call away to actually finding the answer and actually giving you the base level of what you need to know to be successful on Wall Street.
100%. And thank you for that, for sure. It's always the phrase that, you stand on the shoulders of the past generation. And that is so true. And as Dale said too, full circle, use that term. It's very, very, very funny how it all really comes together like that. The roller skates, though, that was one thing I was not familiar with. So I have to double click on that whenever we have our next conversation.
No question.
Definitely will have to. So, I mean, for the first question, or really our first question is what we got on here. Can you tell us, about your first position, as entry-level analyst on Wall Street? And were there any shocks, surprises from what you were expecting Wall Street to be versus your actual experience?
You can start, Dale, because you were in a more hostile environment.
Yeah. So I started at Morgan Stanley. It was at that time considered to be, and probably still is, one of the white shoe firms. It's blue blood. It was top level, top shelf, high intensity business, and I entered into the world of fixed income sales and trading. The experience was what I expected. It was definitely fast paced, and what you have to understand, it's an environment in which you have to compete at a high level and you have to make decisions fast, and people are making decisions on who you are in a very short period of time. So you have to continuously sell to them that you deserve to be there and that you're worth them investing their time in you. And so that was an experience that I had to quickly transition into mentally, because it wasn't that I didn't have the technical skills. It was building the social capital with the people who you needed to invest in you, because there's high stakes and a lot of money on the line, and people are, can you pick this up fast? I'm gonna show you how to do this once. That's it. Do you have it? Yes. Either you do or you don't. And so you had to learn on the fly and very fast, and you had to pick up the terminology and the language in a fast. And so it behooves one to keep a notebook and a pen close, because you had to continuously take notes. You had to understand how all the puzzle pieces come together. And what I'll tell you is, what you could start that practice now. So you weren't, not that I was in a bad situation, but I had to come up that ladder real fast. One thing I wish I would have really learned to do at an earlier age, which is put the puzzle pieces together. And what I mean by that is, everything has a purpose and is connected. Everything. Your index finger, you hurt that, it can somehow have an impact on your ankle. It could have an impact on your thigh. All this stuff is connected. And what I mean by that, when I bring it to the markets, is it's not just the equity markets and the fixed income markets. It's the equity markets and the fixed income markets together. It's the geopolitical landscape, what's happening across the globe, and what's happening domestically from a political standpoint, and what's happening overall with the economy, and how is consumer confidence and all the other things. Why does all that matter? It matters. And when you piece those together and you're able to do that, you can start to see why things happen. And that is what I would tell you. The thing that I had to learn fast was how to bring those puzzle pieces together, be able to form an opinion and make a decision. And do that in a way that it allowed people to want to invest in me. That's the environment that I went into, that I had to quickly make the adjustment.
Yeah, I would also, somewhat piggyback on what Dale said. It's interesting because I think I actually kind of landed my spot via internship, and so my internship experience, I actually worked for Pfizer in Manhattan, New York, Edward D. Jones in St. Louis, Missouri, but I also did a corporate audit intern at American Express Financial Advisors in Minneapolis. And one of the things that is just as important to assessing what you want to do is probably trying to understand what you don't want to do. And I realized that, no, I don't want to be a corporate auditor. At the time, there was a Florida A&M alum, Betty Wilson, and actually Parker, she probably raised a good $20 million for Florida A&M.
Wow.
And she, because there was no people of color at Amex, was like, well, we have a business relationship with the largest African-American owned company. So why don't we, set up a somewhat of an extended co-op, for incoming, African-American employee. And so that was how I made it to Sloan Financial. And I'd say that I not only learned the business, but learned the business of the business. And so like I said, we actually I helped work on the business plan of the you know uh, first investment team with a team on the ground in post-apartheid South Africa. Got an opportunity to go to the South African embassy. I got an opportunity to be on conference calls with like Thabo Mbeki, who was the president after Nelson Mandela, and I was this close to actually telling American Express, well, I've been down here for a year and a half, and I'm not coming back to Minneapolis. But I'd already proposed to my wife, and I'd say one of the things that Dale says about how everything is connected. I can actually say one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life in terms of as it relates to the spouse you choose. I would say now this is maybe somewhat of a maybe harsh way of looking at it, but you know, even if you take a look at and Parker, my son, I give you an example. We had a conversation, and he was talking about a young lady he was dating who was actually in dental school, and was like, "Oh my God, Dad, she's gonna have $400,000 in student loans by the time she comes out." And it's kind of like, nah, that's a big nut to. You look at the net present value of what she may make versus this and that. And I just say that there are a lot of decisions. We have a professor, you probably know him, Dr. Larry Frieder, Larry K. Frieder. And for you basketball buffs, he was the brother of Bill Frieder at University of Michigan basketball team. But Dr. Frieder used to always say that, hey, guys, I'm actually what I'm teaching you. You actually, it's like a license to steal, in terms of learning finance, because finance makes the world go round. And I can actually say that is so true, because there are so many different aspects of life that decisions that you make, that can, knock you out the game soon. So.
Awesome. No, I guess that's one of the big attractions as far as finances. You have one of the highest ROEs there is as far as the cost of college education and the things that go behind that versus the payout of that. So that's really interesting to hear. And both of you, been around for a long time. Obviously, you can hear that in the bios and just the way you talk. Compared to when you both landed your first position on Wall Street. How do you think the hiring landscape you think has changed as far as a candidate's knowledge and technical skills basis for young professionals just starting out?
I would tell you, you have to still come with the same skills, and I think that's never going to be that's never going to change. You have to have skills. What should you have now that we didn't have at the time because it just wasn't as developed as it is now? Technology wasn't as developed as it is now. So think of us. We walk into businesses coming straight out of school. There was no such thing as email. And so there is no email.
The internet didn't exist.
The internet did not exist.
It was just starting.
Yeah, about 1996 is really where so I'm going to call it about 95-ish, 94-ish, 95, that internet thing started kind of evolving, but it wasn't around. And so the biggest thing that was out was the Bloomberg as an application, and having access to a Bloomberg and being able to get data. That was big. And so now you have to know so much more about technology. And what I mean by that is you need to know how to use visualization tools like Tableau and Power BI. You need to be comfortable with definitely using Excel at a high level. You need to probably know how to use things. You need to be comfortable with Python, other things that need to be. So you need to prepare yourself now for having those in your toolkit, along with understanding the markets and understanding how different things impact other things. That would be my thought.
Yeah. One of the things I can actually say is that, and Dale probably can't appreciate this because I think he was undergrad, a business administration major, but like our junior year in college, the dean of our business school canceled the first 3 weeks of classes, and we went through speed reading and memory skills and all of that. And at the time, as a young grasshopper, it was hard to understand. I actually went to the dean's office and was like, Dean Mobley, what foolishness are you trying to pull? Because I'm trying to get ready for the CPA exam. I don't have time to, waste time on, memory skills and speed reading and this and that. And she said something that's so profound that kind of aligns with what Dale said, is that she said, Parks, I'm teaching you competencies. I'm not teaching you a body of knowledge. And so what you have to realize is that I'm eventually what accountants do, they will have an algorithm that can do most of the stuff that they do. And so what I'm trying to teach you to do is critically think and build competencies and constantly re-educate yourself. And that has served me well. I say it's so fascinating. I've been in this business almost 3 decades. The way I do my job now is totally different than the way I did it just 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. And I'm actually able to stay, let's say, in the front of the pack because I'm not averse to using technology and not averse to learning new things. I would just say you have to always, the whole thing about continuous education and continue to challenge yourself and be uncomfortable in terms of learning new things.
That's for sure. I would tell you this, what Deandre said, get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's key. The other thing that I would tell you that he said is that I think is important is this: understand these things. Survival skills are what have probably kept us in this business, because this business has a way of eating its young. Survival skills. What are those survival skills? Being able to communicate and get yourself out of different situations. They can also get you into situations positively. Being able to read a room, understanding who's the stakeholders, who's the decision makers, building relationships that are intentional. Those are the 3 things that are, I would say, are really important, because Deandre and I have known each other since school. I remember graduating, and I left maybe a couple days before graduation from our MBA program because I needed to start it at Morgan Stanley. But we've stayed in contact over these years. This is before a Palm Pilot, which you probably don't know of, or before an iPhone where you could store your phone numbers. BlackBerry, yeah. All those things are gone now. But Deandre and I have stayed in contact through all those. It was a written phone number in my phone book, and then through all those other forms of technology, which have changed over the years. But the key piece was our relationship was based on the foundation that we had in school, that we established in school. If I came to his town when he lived in Minneapolis for a business trip, I spent time with him. When he moved to Connecticut and I was living in New Jersey, we spent time together. Then at that stage, it was our family spending time together.
Yeah.
He moved to California.
We vacationed together, and done things together. And I can tell you, one of the things I can actually say, maybe even some of the people that I was not as close to in school, one person comes to mind is one of Dale's old roommates, but she actually went to Goldman. And I just say Goldman, the culture of Goldman is brutal, especially for African Americans. And but because we had this shared experience, I never doubted her skill set. And I would say she was probably one of the most confident people that I knew. And she was bad, in terms of intellect. But however, I think she, maybe got with she was the junior of a very narcissistic, tough person to work with. And, actually ended up exiting the business. But when I saw this person at conferences, like I was heavily involved with NASP, I would always say, hey, this is my colleague, this is my classmate, look out, and I think that is important because one of the things I can actually say is that it's always going to be people. There may be people above you that feel threatened by you, because they think you're trying to take their spot. And definitely there are people that's going to always be under you that's going to try to shank you, thinking that they deserve your spot, your seat, you know. And so it is a one of my former bosses, Mr. Maceo Sloan, who's an icon. He said, DeAndre, the battle in life is to dance with elephants and try not to get stepped on.
Mm. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
No, I mean, amen. What you think?
So, yeah, I think it's fantastic commentary, but to move on, it's one of my questions. To both of you, I'd like to ask how you would suggest a young person entering the industry, but without the advantage of having connections like the two of you, someone coming in cold, not really having anybody on the inside. Where would you enter in coming out of college?
Well, I would actually say this. So my boss, part of the reason I got on late, I took my boss down to visit Florida A&M, and there were two young men out of the whole, like close to 600 students at the forum, when he spoke in front of the business school, that asked him for his cell phone number, and he gave it to him, and he said, he's like, hey, these two guys, because they actually had the cojones to step up to the plate and step to me and look me in my eye and just say, hey, Mr. Brisk, can we talk? My boss called me and just like said, I want both of those guys to intern with here, and we're going to offer them a job, now one already went to Wellington, so that ship has sailed. However, the fact that this young man who did not have a background, and he didn't ask me for my number. He asked the big guy for his number, and actually even texted him during the Super Bowl, and so my boss was like, hey, I like that kid's grit, contact human resources, see how the first round of interviews went, and but I want that guy. And so I'd actually say you have to have thick skin and a certain level of tenacity in terms of what you're going to do. Dale, it's interesting. I mean, we would volunteer time over Christmas break, Ariel Capital, hey, or Mr. Sloan, all the black shops. Hey, can I actually come? I'll sleep on a couch. I'll sleep anywhere. I just want the experience of being able to sit in the presence and learn something about, the investment world. And so I think grit, goes a far way.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You have to have extreme confidence in yourself, and you have to have the ability to go do the work.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, what I would tell you is, I tell people this all the time. Every December, someone is in the world, several people are making a decision saying, I'm going to do whatever it is, lose weight. Next year, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to do this. I'm going to eat differently. That happens maybe for about a week or two in January. And then after that, it's over. And so same thing happens is you tell somebody you want to make a lot of money, everybody's raising their hand. So people, hey, look, you want to work on Wall Street? Yeah, absolutely. I want to work on Wall Street, or I want to work in tech. Excellent. Well, here's what you're going to have to do if you plan to get there from where you are now. And they're like, whoa.
Yeah, and I think everyone does not. So in my opinion, you can have anything you want. However, I think you need to count all the cost, because I can actually say there are people that I know, and not necessarily African Americans, that make Google gobs of money, but probably on their fourth marriage, probably families are in crisis. And so I say you actually have to balance that and truly make an assessment. It's kind of like a net present value thing, in terms of, all right, what if the sacrifice that I make, is it worth the utility or the satisfaction that I'm actually going to attain, from doing that, and so there's a book, called Stumbling on Happiness, I think by a guy named Dan Gilbert, and so, it's interesting. You always, he poses a question that, like, if you now was talking to yourself from 20 years ago, what advice would you give that version of yourself way back when? And a lot of times, you might say, hey, 20-year-old self, what were you thinking? Because that's not the core value of who I am as a person. But I think in terms of even going through those assessments and trying to understand that is important to getting you not only to, because you got to get it to where work is where it's not like it's work. I love what I do, in terms of, making buy, call, buy, sell decisions, and, trying to understand problems or how things piece together. And I have a passion for it, haven't necessarily liked all the people I had to do it with over my career, but I can actually say that I know I add value and love what I do. So didn't mean to be too long with it.
No. Oh no, that's a great answer. So to on the next question, what credentials would the two of you say would be helpful to a person getting their undergrad or getting a degree that's not directly related to finance? Credentials they can get outside of traditional collegiate diplomas.
Sure. Here's something that you have to start. Again, it's all about how much work do you want to put in and what sacrifices are you going to make. And Deandre talked about this.
And where you want to be.
Yeah,
which side of the business you may want to be on too.
Depending on what side of the business. Yeah. So for Deandre, when we were finishing school, he was preparing to take the CFA exam. He was preparing to take level 1. It's at least a 3-year commitment because they only offer each test once a year or twice a year or something like that at the time. And you have to be committed to putting in the work to pass that exam and getting your CFA credential. There's another credential you can also get, which is the CAIA, the CAIA, and that's another credential. And so if you're going to be on the side of the business that I went into, you need to have a Series 7, which is a time commitment, and you have to be committed to passing that exam. And those are things that you can start practicing and learning now because all the information is out there. But is it, and this is the type of stuff I did, right? So look, there's a lot of parties going on in school. You can go to all of them. My fraternity had a frat house. We had parties all the time. So another party wasn't new to me. I could take a Friday and decide I'm going to stay at home and read the Fabozzi handbook on fixed income securities, which was I knew that it was something you need to have. I found it at the Books A Million, I think it was called. I found it, bought it, used bookstore, bought it, boom, and I started teaching myself about financial instruments, about fixed income instruments, and spent Friday nights at home sometime. But that was because I wanted that opportunity to work where I worked so bad. Deandre talked about taking advantage of opportunities. I took the opportunity to work with Ariel Capital as an intern. When? Not during the summer, because my summers had passed already. During the Christmas holiday, I left school, went home for 2 days to Ohio. I drove to Chicago. I stayed on my friend's couch who lived in Chicago. He and I had finished high school at the same time. He was working in Chicago, slept on his couch. He had gone back home to Ohio for Christmas. I stayed at his house, continued to work through Christmas. And what happened was John Rogers, who runs Ariel Capital, introduced me to several people that led to my opportunity at Morgan Stanley. If it wasn't for me making that sacrifice, that would have never happened.
I agree. So I just the same thing that Dale said, CFA, that's probably one of the hardest things I've ever did in my entire life. And you know what's interesting though is that kind of at my level, there are four guys, so think about, okay, the four guys on our team, my piece of the pie is 37% of, our $130 million, and I'm the only person that looked like me. And it was like that at American Express. It's like that at Solomon Brothers. And it was kind of like that here, so I'm, still trying to create opportunities. But one of the things I can say, out of the colleagues that I have, and one actually even used to be the director of research at one of our competitors that Parker worked for this past summer. I'm the only person that has my CFA and MBA. And so one of the things I think, people may doubt on, Mississippi College or FAMU, but the thing about it, the CFA, it's almost like the passing the bars. If you're an attorney or a doctor, passing the boards, that's kind of levels the playing field, and not everyone actually has the intestinal fortitude to actually see it through all the way.
Yeah. And Deandre, that actually is perfect. Leads us into our next question, something that me and Dre, your son, has discussed pretty heavily. So I think I get an idea of where you lean on this one. But, what are your thoughts on young professionals acquiring an MBA versus CFA, or, do you need both? It seems like in the most, recent years, the CFA has become, even more prevalent. It's kind of pushed the MBA to the side. How should, young professionals really think about this?
Well, I would say this, my son, Deandre Parks, who has my same name, marches to the beat of a different drummer. I'd actually say that I think if you're trying to be in the asset management business, I would say you probably need both, but it all depends on what you want to do, and one of the things that I can actually say about your generation is that, like, my for example, my daughter just left Mondelez. She's in a rotational program, but she works and she has some stock in this company called Moonshot, which is a Black women-owned company that does sustainable manufacturing of snack goods. Like, she was the associate brand manager for Triscuit, and actually now is working for a minority-owned startup that just got in Target and a few other places. They're in Essence magazine and actually Fortune over the past month. So I think it all depends on what you want to do. So I think if you want to manage money on the buy side, your CFA, is a good start, because not a lot of people actually, the pass rate for level 1 CFA this year was 27%. So that means 73% weren't successful. And I just like to say that test was a lot harder when I took it, but I got through. So it is what it is, so.
Do you want to respond to that?
No, I think he said it well, man. I mean, look, I tell you guys this, a lot of great questions. The key piece here, guys, you have to put in work. You have to be committed to what you say you want to do. And you have to figure out how to find your way. And listen, Deandre and I just told you 2 non-traditional stories of how we reached the place that we wanted to get to, the pinnacle of this business on the buy side and the sell side. But it was not companies coming down to see us and they wanted us to, no, that wasn't what was going on at the time. It was a person that he talked about, Miss Wilson, who said, listen, American Express, we're going to go get talent. And we have found the person that I think would be ideal for this unique role that we're going to create in our asset management business and utilize him across one of our partners. So he's going to join our partner and work there, and then he's going to come and join us. And that was Deandre. Morgan Stanley gave me a shot that they were not giving anyone else. Why? Because I walked in the room and I knew it was my only chance that I might have in that room, and I took it. I was prepared, but I took it, and they liked what they saw, and they were willing to make an investment in me. But if you don't go in the room and take it, and you don't show up with the knowledge that you should have, that you can just get by doing your own research, then nobody's going to give you that opportunity. So I tell everyone, if you want it, put the work in. And if you really want it, go take it.
Right. So, I mean, this next question, we keep talking about roles. At least out of personal experience, I found, once a person finally does get their foot in the door, and as far as in the industry of where they, fairly want to be, many times they find out that there's so many different roles, so many different functions that go into the business. That person could potentially even make a whole career out of. So what will be your advice to the young professionals again, as far as searching for their niche and finding that area that they're really interested in and want to pursue a career in?
I would tell you that here's what I hear all the time, and I'm trying to break young people from doing this. You hear young people say, "I want to work in investment banking. I want to work in finance." Okay, what do you want to do? I want to do investment banking. Okay, what do you want to do? Well, I want to manage people's money. That's different. So you have to do your own homework on what is the buy side, what is the sell side, what is sales and trading, what is asset management, what is an analyst, what is a portfolio manager, what is a chief investment officer, what is a trader versus a salesperson, what's a sales trader on the equity side, what is a person who works in capital markets, either equity capital markets or debt capital markets. There's so many things to know that you can now find yourself. You can do this work yourself, and then you can ask people questions to help you refine it. But no one's going to let you walk in the door and not know this stuff. You're going to have to know something. You got to put the work in.
Yeah, I would actually say the same thing in terms of what Dale said. I think the most important part, like I said before, is also maybe trying to assess your skill set, but also maybe getting a great understanding of what it is that you might not want to do as well. I think there are so many things I didn't know about. So one of the things that Dale said before, knowing fixed income as well as equity. I actually started out as an equity analyst. And I actually, had this thought that one day that you would actually have the manager of the future or analyst of the future would not just look at the balance sheet, or not just look at the income statement, but all parts of the the capital structure. And the funny thing about it, you call those hedge funds. Basically they look at displacements, but I think when I came into the business, you were either a fixed income guy or you were an equity guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like couldn't cross the two. And so that has changed. And I've actually had opportunities to do a lot of other things, but I always try to make a very clearly articulated or have a clearly articulated view of what the cost was, and so I think that's what you have to assess, how bad you want it, what do you want, and there are a lot of different paths that can get you there, and the great thing about it now, there are so many, especially with like cryptocurrencies and this and that, or different non-traditional ways. I think the most important part is to kind of maybe get to know yourself and actually critically think about where things may go, and that'll actually give you a lot of freedom.
That's for sure.
Amen. Hey, man, I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, move on to the next question. In your careers, what do you think has played a greater role in your ability to find yourself in a better position your technical capabilities that you earned from your studies, or your ability to network and communicate more effectively?
I'll start off by that one. I think I would actually say both. Remember the expression that I told you before is not who you know or not or what you know, but it's what you know when you know somebody. And I'll just be real with you. We have a colleague. Um, so uh, my so let me back up. When I actually came out of school, um, I was kind of like conditionally accepted at the University of Chicago to do my MBA, but they wanted me to go work, you know. And then I was like looking at the possibility of, okay, I can come and spend another year or a little bit more at FAMU and make the same amount of money. Remember that present net value, thing, and actually, I don't think I missed a step. I know I was prepared, but one of my closest friends was in my wedding. He actually went to Duke for his MBA. We actually have another colleague that went to Harvard. And like each and every time they've gotten their wings clipped, they've actually reached outside the Dell or myself, to tap back into the network. And I say they're still smart, but what even if you have a pedigree, what gets you in the door is not going to keep you there. And so you better be hungry every day and figuring out a way to add some type of value each and every day, because it's almost like pro sports. There's a very interesting, if you take a look at I Am Athlete, there was a thing recently where they were actually talking about, a guy was saying that, well, yeah, I got suspended for a while. And then when I came back, I got docked even more money, because basically I actually had to pay 45% of the games, or 45% of the games to actually get paid this amount of money. But still, his employer was like, oh, well, we pretty much got this game won. Why am I going to pay you an extra $1 million, just because you're here? So you got to make yourself somewhat invaluable where they want you. Even when I try to sell a pitch an investment idea, Dale and I used to always talk, because we did presentations in grad school together. Well, we have to make it read like a Dr. Seuss book, where people are so hungry, like they feel like stupid if I don't invest in this. Oh my God, what am I thinking about? And being able to break it down in such a way that it actually makes sense. So I just say that you need both, long-winded answer.
Both you need to have. You need to prepare on both sides of that. Think of, if you are a bodybuilder, do you just work on your upper body? No, you work on your upper body and you work on your legs. Because if you go into competition and you have this huge upper body and no legs, you don't win. It's all about definition. And so tying that all in, what you need to have is the ability to get in the room, and then you have to have the ability to stay in the room. And what keeps you in that room is your ability to read the room, be able to add value, as Deandre talked about. Adding value keeps you in the room, and then also having the other skills necessary to read the room, understand where to build relationships, understand what gets other people ticking, and everyone's different. So you have to be able to feed into what they're interested in and build relationships that way. Somebody's going to be a bird lover. Someone's going to be a sports lover. What sports do they like? Do they like football? Do they like EuroLeague soccer? Do they like baseball? Maybe you have an understanding of all of it and you're able to establish a conversation, and that allows you to build a relationship with someone who says, hey, you know what? Why don't you come and join us? We're doing this. And then that leads to something else, and it leads to something else. You have to have both.
Yeah. And one of the things I'll add, Parker, you always you were talking about, my son, Dre. What's fascinating is that, he's a football player. He played football in high school. And when he decided he wanted to play rugby, and the whole rugby culture is just like different, man. like if I go to a football game, there's a start time and a finish time, but the rugby people, it's like, oh, we're gonna have a friendly, oh, we're gonna do this, and you may be there all day long, and it's a very violent sport, but but then it's kind of like it's not the
with no pads.
sense of yeah, but it's not the sense of such a hostile environment, afterwards. So it was weird. But when he went to he went to a new school, and a lot of the kids there were his rugby teammates, and even when he started at the Capital Group, the thing that he sent out, oh yeah, I played football in college, but I also did rugby, and this and that, and it was just like I would just say try new things, and because I say I don't get rugby, I don't get the game or whatever and stuff, but it is what it is. But I think that was a common touch point that he was able to build some relationships off of.
Absolutely.
So be a Renaissance man, Renaissance lady, in terms of how you manage your life. And one of the things I can actually say, this is and maybe Dale can attest to this, because I can actually say there are certain experiences that you might not have as of yet, that you probably didn't understand at one time, but then it's kind of like after a while it's like, oh, that's pretty cool, that's pretty dope, so I think be open to everything, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Take it all in.
100%. That's really cool, and it brings up a great point of like, diversifying your own experiences. Is a huge thing that I got from that from there. So that's awesome point. So I mean, it's ending off tonight. It's been really really great. Just with our very last question, something that's very near to my heart, and I know it's very close to both of yours as well. Both of you are just extremely involved, and I want to say non-career. I guess you consider all of it career, but in nonprofit work, and have paid back your success to your communities, tremendously in a variety of different ways over the years. So my question, really is, what inspires you both, to do so and to give so handsomely, I may add as well, and what message to young people would you give about the importance of giving back to your community?
You
I
go
would say,
ahead.
I would say this: it's a must. What has been given to me from first my parents and then everyone who invested in me at Florida A&M University and gave me the confidence to believe that I could go do what I said I wanted to go do, and to get on the other side of that dream where you actually realize what you said you wanted to do, you actually got it. Man, that's a heck of a feeling. And when you get there and you realize, like, wow, all this is going on and I didn't know about it. So you're in the room and you realize what's happening in the room as you gain access, and you're like, I got to figure out how to get some other people in here. And that's what inspires me. I want other people to experience and some of the things that I've experienced by being in the room. And I think that what inspires me is helping other people gain access, because it will change your life financially. It will change your life and your perspective on what is real and what is not. And it will also inspire you to want to continue to place yourself in uncomfortable situations so that you can overcome those uncertainties and fears that you have. And that's why I love exposing people to what they may not have exposure to, as well as giving back in any way that I can.
I actually, believe it or not, there have been a whole host of people that Dale and I have, quote, helped mentor. Some have bumped their heads along the way, and it's like, well, we told you, this and that. But sometimes, you people have to touch the pot to find out it's hot. One of the things I can actually say is that what type of legacy you would want to leave. And one of the things that occurred when I most recently went down to family, like this past homecoming,
Mm-hmm.
we actually We actually endowed a scholarship. I was going to try to share my screen, but I'll send it to you, Parker. But one of the things about it is that whenever I felt discouraged, and when I took my boss down here or down to FAMU, the dean started our day at the Black Archives, and you have to realize that it hasn't been that long ago. We only a few generations away from slavery, Yeah. and when you walk through the Black Archives and see like the newspaper ads where they used to use black babies as alligator bait, I would just say, picture that as what your ancestors have endured. And I'm not saying we're the weight of the world on your shoulders. However, I would actually say this: they had nothing, in terms of the level of resources and the level of access to information that you have. The E.T., the hip hop preacher, says information changes situations. And so, but you have to be on your grind to actually make it happen. So I would actually say that's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very powerful words. It puts everything just in a real long-term perspective, from where we are, from where we were as a people to where we are today I think is absolutely incredible. And again, we all, each generation builds off, each other. So this was awesome. This is a great conversation. I really appreciate both of you guys. Be able to spend some time and join us here at the junior board. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you to our audience as well for joining us tonight. Really appreciate you all coming out. Stay tuned. Next week, we'll be having another event for Black History Month, our final one for the month. We'll be wrapping up there. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deandre. Daily.
All right. All right, D.
All right, take it easy, man.
All right, good night.